Title: What Life is Really Like Inside One of Canada's Most Feared Prisons, Millhaven. Help this channel grow. Like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, and don't forget to turn on your notifications for our next real-life prison stories. This helps us a lot. Thank you. The story begins. Millhaven Institution is often described as one of Canada's most feared prisons, and according to public records and investigative reporting, that reputation is rooted not in myth but in daily reality. From the moment individuals arrive, life inside Millhaven is defined by maximum security control, rigid routine, and constant surveillance. Located in Bath, Ontario, and operated by Correctional Service Canada, Millhaven houses men classified at the highest security level, many serving long or indeterminate sentences. The opening reality is immediate. Movement is restricted, interactions are monitored, and every aspect of daily life is shaped by institutional authority. Millhaven officially opened in 1971 as part of Canada's federal prison system. According to government documentation, it was designed to manage individuals considered high risk due to the severity of their convictions or their behavior in custody. Unlike lower security facilities that emphasize movement and programming, Millhaven was built around containment. Thick concrete walls, electronic doors, and controlled ranges reflect a philosophy centered on security first. This design continues to shape how the institution functions today. Daily life inside Millhaven follows a strict schedule set by Correctional Service Canada policies. Each day begins with inmate counts, conducted multiple times to ensure accountability. According to institutional procedures, these counts are non-negotiable and override all other activities. If a count is delayed or disrupted, the entire institution can be locked down. This constant verification reinforces the reality that personal autonomy is limited and conditional. Housing at Millhaven consists primarily of single cells arranged along secure ranges. Public records indicate that most incarcerated individuals spend significant portions of the day inside these cells, particularly during lockdowns. Cells are small, functional spaces containing a bed, toilet, sink, and minimal storage. Privacy is limited, and lighting is controlled by the institution. For many, the cell becomes both refuge and confinement, shaping mental and emotional well-being over time. Movement within the prison is tightly controlled. According to Correctional Service Canada guidelines, incarcerated individuals move only when authorized and usually under escort. Access to common areas such as yards or program rooms depends on security assessments and staffing levels. If staffing is insufficient or tensions rise, movement can be suspended entirely. Lockdowns are a routine part of life at Millhaven, sometimes lasting days or longer. Meals are served on a fixed schedule and are standardized across federal institutions. According to government food service policies, meals are designed to meet nutritional requirements while controlling costs. At Millhaven, meals are often eaten inside cells, particularly during restricted movement periods. Reports from oversight bodies suggest that food quality and temperature are common complaints, though conditions can vary depending on circumstances. Work opportunities inside Millhaven are limited compared to lower security prisons. According to Correctional Service Canada data, employment options may include cleaning, kitchen assistance, or institutional maintenance. These jobs are paid at low rates, consistent with federal prison policy. While work can provide structure and limited income, availability is restricted by security concerns and institutional needs. Programming at Millhaven exists but is constrained. Correctional Service Canada offers programs focused on behavior, substance use, and accountability, particularly for those seeking parole eligibility. However, documented cases suggest that access to programs can be delayed by lockdowns, staffing shortages, or security incidents. For individuals serving life sentences, programming may stretch over many years, reinforcing the slow pace of institutional time. Mental health care is a critical issue within Millhaven. According to reports from the Office of the Correctional Investigator, federal prisons face ongoing challenges providing adequate mental health services, particularly in maximum security environments. Millhaven houses individuals with complex mental health needs, and treatment is delivered within the constraints of security protocols. Critics argue that prolonged isolation and restricted movement can exacerbate psychological distress. Discipline inside Millhaven follows a formal system governed by federal regulations. When rules are violated, individuals may face charges that lead to sanctions such as loss of privileges or segregation. Administrative segregation, now referred to as structured intervention units, has been the subject of legal scrutiny in Canada. Court decisions have acknowledged the harmful effects of prolonged isolation, prompting policy changes, though implementation remains uneven according to oversight reports. Violence is a documented concern in maximum security prisons, including Millhaven. According to Correctional Service Canada incident data, assaults between inmates and on staff occur, though frequency varies. The presence of violence contributes to the prison's reputation and influences daily operations. Security measures, including searches and surveillance, are designed to mitigate these risks but also contribute to a tense environment. Relationships between staff and incarcerated individuals are shaped by authority and control. Correctional officers at Millhaven operate in a high-stress environment, responsible for maintaining order while following strict use of force policies. According to union reports and government studies, staff face risks of injury and burnout. These pressures affect institutional culture and decision-making. Communication with the outside world is regulated. Phone calls, mail, and visits are monitored under federal rules. Millhaven offers in-person visitation, but access can be restricted during lockdowns or security incidents. According to Correctional Service Canada, maintaining family connections is encouraged, yet logistical barriers often limit contact, especially for those housed far from home communities. Millhaven's reputation has been shaped by media coverage and official inquiries. Over the years, investigative reports have examined conditions inside the institution, including concerns about overcrowding, use of force, and mental health care. These reports rely on interviews, access to information requests, and oversight findings rather than speculation. According to documented cases, scrutiny has led to incremental changes but not fundamental transformation. The prison also reflects broader trends within Canada's justice system. Federal sentencing laws, parole policies, and public attitudes toward punishment influence who is housed at Millhaven and for how long. Individuals serving life sentences, including those with parole eligibility after many years, may spend extended periods in maximum security before gradual reclassification. This slow progression underscores the long-term nature of federal incarceration. Time inside Millhaven moves differently. Days are repetitive, structured, and often interrupted by institutional needs rather than personal choice. According to first-hand accounts documented in court records and reports, this monotony can be psychologically taxing. Small changes such as schedule adjustments or cell moves take on outsized significance. Despite its restrictive nature, Millhaven is not static. Policies evolve in response to court rulings, audits, and public pressure. Correctional Service Canada has introduced reforms aimed at reducing isolation and improving mental health care. However, critics argue that change is slow and uneven, particularly in maximum security settings where security concerns dominate. For those inside, Millhaven represents both punishment and endurance. Life is shaped by rules, surveillance, and limited opportunity, but also by adaptation and resilience. According to documented patterns, individuals develop routines, social connections, and coping strategies within the constraints imposed on them. These informal systems help some navigate the psychological demands of long-term confinement. Millhaven's location also contributes to its character. Situated away from major urban centers, the prison is physically and symbolically distant from public view. This distance can reduce transparency, making oversight and accountability more challenging. Oversight bodies emphasize the importance of regular inspections and reporting to ensure conditions meet legal and ethical standards. As Canada continues to debate the purpose of incarceration, Millhaven remains a focal point. It embodies the tension between security and rehabilitation, punishment and reform. According to Correctional Service Canada, The institution is intended to manage risk while offering pathways toward reintegration. Whether it succeeds in balancing these goals remains a subject of ongoing scrutiny. Understanding life inside Millhaven requires moving beyond reputation to documented reality. It is a place governed by rules, shaped by policy, and inhabited by people whose lives unfold within its walls. This chapter establishes that foundation, grounded in verified information and institutional record, before turning deeper into the systems, conflicts, and consequences that define one of Canada's most feared prisons. Daily control, confinement, and adaptation inside Millhaven. Life inside Millhaven Institution is shaped less by individual choice than by institutional necessity. According to Correctional Service Canada policy, maximum security prisons operate on the principle that risk management overrides all other considerations. At Millhaven, this principle is reflected in how days unfold, how space is used, and how authority is exercised. The lived experience of incarceration here is defined by restriction, repetition, and constant assessment, creating an environment where stability is fragile and change is incremental. Each day begins with security counts, a foundational practice in federal corrections. Public records indicate that counts occur multiple times daily, including early morning and late evening. During counts, all incarcerated individuals must be accounted for in their assigned locations. Movement stops entirely until the count is cleared. This process reinforces institutional control and serves as a reminder that time and mobility are not personal possessions but regulated privileges. Even routine activities are subordinate to security confirmation. After morning count, the day proceeds according to a tightly managed schedule. Access to showers, exercise yards, work assignments, or programs depends on institutional status and staffing availability. According to reports from the Office of the Correctional Investigator, maximum security facilities like Millhaven experience frequent disruptions due to staff shortages or security incidents. When this happens, schedules collapse into confinement, and individuals may spend entire days locked in their cells with limited human interaction. Cells at Millhaven are designed for single occupancy, reflecting the security classification of the population. According to Correctional Service Canada infrastructure descriptions, these cells are constructed of concrete and steel, prioritizing durability and surveillance. Furnishings are minimal: a fixed bed, toilet, sink, and small desk or shelf. Windows are narrow and reinforced, allowing limited natural light. While single cells can reduce interpersonal conflict, they also intensify isolation, particularly during extended lockdowns. Time spent inside cells can be extensive. Documented cases and oversight reports suggest that incarcerated individuals in maximum security may spend well over half the day confined, even outside formal lockdowns. During periods of institutional restriction, cell confinement can approach 22 or more hours per day. This level of isolation has been linked by mental health professionals to increased anxiety, depression, and emotional dysregulation, particularly for those serving long sentences. Meals are typically delivered according to security conditions. When movement is permitted, individuals may attend communal dining under supervision. During lockdowns or heightened security periods, meals are delivered to cells. Correctional Service Canada food policies aim to meet nutritional standards, but oversight reports note that temperature, presentation, and timing are frequent sources of complaint. Food becomes not only sustenance but also a measure of institutional functioning, with disruptions signaling broader instability. Physical exercise is recognized by Correctional Service Canada as essential to health, yet access is constrained by security realities. Outdoor yards are heavily monitored, enclosed spaces designed to allow limited movement without compromising control. According to reports, yard access can be cancelled with little notice due to staffing or security concerns. When exercise is restricted for prolonged periods, tensions often rise, affecting both incarcerated individuals and staff. Work inside Millhaven serves practical and behavioral purposes. Institutional jobs include cleaning, food preparation support, and maintenance tasks. According to federal policy, Work assignments are voluntary but often encouraged as part of correctional planning. Pay rates are standardized and low, reflecting national prison labor practices. While work can provide routine and modest income, opportunities are limited and often interrupted by institutional disruptions. Correctional programming is a central component of Canada's correctional framework, intended to address behavior linked to criminal offending. At Millhaven, programs focus on violence prevention, substance use, and accountability. According to Correctional Service Canada documentation, completion of such programs is often required for parole consideration. However, access can be delayed by security classification, waitlists, or institutional lockdowns, extending incarceration timelines. Education opportunities in maximum security settings are limited. While some individuals pursue basic education or correspondence courses, access to instructors and resources is constrained. Oversight bodies have noted disparities in educational access between security levels. At Millhaven, security concerns often take precedence, resulting in fewer opportunities compared to medium or minimum security institutions. Mental health care remains one of the most scrutinized aspects of life inside Millhaven. Reports from the Office of the Correctional Investigator consistently highlight gaps in mental health staffing and continuity of care across federal prisons. Individuals with serious mental health needs are housed at Millhaven, sometimes due to behavioral challenges rather than clinical suitability. Treatment occurs within a security framework that can limit therapeutic effectiveness. The use of isolation has been a focal point of legal and public debate in Canada. Administrative segregation, replaced by structured intervention units, was intended to reduce harm associated with prolonged isolation. According to court rulings and government evaluations, implementation has been uneven. At Millhaven, individuals placed in structured intervention units may still experience significant isolation, though policies now mandate increased out-of-cell time and access to services. Violence is an ever-present concern in maximum security environments. Correctional Service Canada incident data confirms that assaults and use of force incidents occur at Millhaven, though not constantly. The potential for violence shapes institutional culture, influencing decisions about movement, searches, and restrictions. For incarcerated individuals, this environment fosters hypervigilance and stress, even during periods of relative calm. Searches are routine and intrusive. Cells, common areas, and individuals are searched regularly for contraband. According to institutional policy, these searches are essential to maintaining safety. However, they also reinforce power imbalances and can be experienced as degrading. Oversight reports emphasize the need for professionalism and proportionality, acknowledging the psychological impact of constant surveillance. Relationships between incarcerated individuals are shaped by caution. Social interaction occurs within tightly controlled spaces, often along range fronts or during limited yard time. Trust is selective, and alliances may form based on shared circumstances rather than affinity. According to documented patterns, many individuals adopt strategies of emotional withdrawal to manage risk and stress. Staff experience their own pressures within Millhaven. Correctional officers operate in a high-risk setting, responsible for enforcing rules while managing unpredictable situations. Union statements and government studies highlight concerns about burnout, injury, and mental health among staff. These conditions influence institutional climate, affecting communication and conflict resolution. Discipline is administered through a formal process governed by federal legislation. Charges for institutional misconduct can result in loss of privileges or placement in structured intervention units. According to oversight findings, disciplinary processes are legally defined but can feel opaque to those subject to them. Appeals exist, but resolution can be slow, reinforcing feelings of powerlessness. Contact with the outside world is limited but significant. Phone calls are monitored and scheduled, mail is screened, and visits are regulated. Millhaven offers in-person visits, though access depends on security status and institutional conditions. According to Correctional Service Canada, maintaining family connections supports reintegration, yet distance and cost often reduce contact frequency. Media attention has periodically focused on Millhaven, particularly following incidents or investigative reports. These accounts draw from access to information requests, interviews, and oversight findings. While not all coverage is comprehensive, it contributes to public understanding and accountability. According to documented cases, scrutiny has prompted reviews and policy adjustments, though systemic challenges persist. Time perception inside Millhaven differs sharply from life outside. Days are repetitive, punctuated by counts and routines. Weeks blend together and milestones are few. According to first-hand accounts referenced in reports, this monotony can erode motivation and hope. Small changes such as program access or unit transfers assume heightened importance. Despite constraints, individuals adapt. Coping strategies include maintaining routines, engaging in permitted activities, and focusing on incremental goals. Some pursue legal appeals or parole preparation, while others concentrate on daily survival. These adaptations reflect resilience within restrictive conditions, a pattern observed across maximum security institutions. Millhaven functions as a microcosm of Canada's approach to high-risk incarceration. Policies emphasizing control coexist with stated commitments to rehabilitation and human rights. According to oversight bodies, reconciling these goals remains an ongoing challenge. The institution's daily operations reveal the tension between safety and dignity that defines maximum security imprisonment. This chapter has examined how life inside Millhaven is organized, controlled, and experienced on a daily basis. Grounded in documented practices and oversight findings, it reveals a reality shaped by security imperatives and human adaptation. The next chapter will examine accountability, reform efforts, and what Millhaven's future reveals about Canada's evolving justice system. Accountability, reform, and the future of Millhaven in Canada's justice system. Millhaven Institution occupies a critical position in Canada's federal correctional system, not only because of the population it houses, but because of what it represents. According to Correctional Service Canada, maximum security institutions like Millhaven are designed to manage individuals assessed as posing the highest risk. Yet over time, Millhaven has also become a focal point for debates about accountability, human rights, and the limits of punishment. Its future is increasingly shaped by court rulings, public scrutiny, and evolving expectations about what incarceration should accomplish. Oversight has played a defining role in shaping Millhaven's trajectory. The Office of the Correctional Investigator, Canada's independent prison watchdog, has repeatedly examined conditions in maximum security institutions. Annual reports have documented concerns related to isolation, mental health care, use of force, and access to programming. While these reports do not single out Millhaven as uniquely problematic, they consistently highlight the challenges inherent in facilities where security imperatives dominate daily life. Legal pressure has been a major driver of reform. Court decisions in Canada have increasingly recognized that prolonged isolation can violate constitutional rights. Rulings from provincial and federal courts have challenged the use of administrative segregation, prompting legislative changes. Structured intervention units were introduced as a replacement, intended to ensure increased out-of-cell time and access to services. According to government evaluations, implementation has been uneven, particularly in maximum security settings such as Millhaven. At Millhaven, the transition away from traditional segregation has required operational adjustments. Correctional Service Canada policies now mandate minimum hours of meaningful human contact for those placed in structured intervention units. However, oversight bodies report that staffing shortages and security incidents can undermine these requirements. This gap between policy and practice remains a central concern for advocates and legal observers. Mental health reform is another area of ongoing scrutiny. Federal reports acknowledge that individuals with serious mental health needs are disproportionately represented in maximum security prisons. At Millhaven, treatment must occur within a restrictive environment, often limiting therapeutic effectiveness. The Office of the Correctional Investigator has called for expanded clinical staffing and alternatives to incarceration for individuals whose behavior is driven by untreated mental illness. Progress has been gradual, constrained by funding and institutional culture. Public accountability has increased through media reporting and access to information laws. Investigative journalists have examined incidents at Millhaven using official documents and interviews, contributing to a broader public understanding of life inside federal prisons. While Correctional Service Canada does not permit unrestricted media access, these reports have played a role in prompting internal reviews and policy discussions. Transparency, though limited, has become a growing expectation. Rehabilitation remains a stated goal of Canada's correctional system. Correctional Service Canada emphasizes that even individuals in maximum security should have access to programs that support eventual reintegration. At Millhaven, this goal is complicated by long sentences and indeterminate incarceration. Many individuals housed there are serving life sentences with parole eligibility years or decades away. For them, rehabilitation is a long-term process rather than an immediate pathway to release. Parole decision-making has a significant impact on Millhaven's population. According to Parole Board of Canada policies, risk assessment is central to release decisions. Individuals classified as maximum security must demonstrate sustained behavioral change before reclassification or transfer. This process can take many years, reinforcing prolonged exposure to restrictive conditions. Critics argue that this creates a cycle in which limited programming and isolation hinder the very change required for progression. Staff perspectives are an essential part of the reform conversation. Correctional officers at Millhaven work in a high-risk environment where safety concerns are constant. Union statements and workplace studies highlight challenges related to staffing levels, training, and mental health support. Officers are expected to balance enforcement with professionalism, a task made more difficult by chronic stress. Meaningful reform, analysts suggest, must address staff well-being alongside inmate rights. The physical infrastructure of Millhaven also influences its future. Built in the early 1970s, the institution reflects design philosophies centered on containment. According to internal assessments, aging infrastructure creates maintenance challenges and limits flexibility. Retrofitting older maximum security facilities to support modern correctional practices can be costly and complex. These constraints factor into broader discussions about the long-term sustainability of such institutions. Indigenous incarceration is a critical issue within Canada's justice system, including at Millhaven. Public data indicates that Indigenous people are overrepresented in federal prisons, often due to systemic factors beyond individual conduct. Correctional Service Canada has acknowledged this disparity and introduced culturally specific programming. However, access within maximum security environments remains limited, raising concerns about equity and reconciliation commitments. Victims' perspectives also shape policy debates. For many victims of serious crime, institutions like Millhaven represent accountability and public safety. Public consultations and testimony show a range of views, with some supporting rehabilitative approaches and others emphasizing punishment. Policymakers must navigate these perspectives while adhering to legal standards and evidence-based practices. Canada's broader shift toward decarceration and alternatives to custody has indirect implications for Millhaven. While maximum security prisons are unlikely to disappear, policy trends emphasize reducing incarceration where possible. According to federal justice data, diversion programs and community supervision aim to limit the growth of prison populations. Over time, these trends may affect who enters maximum security and how long they remain there. Public health considerations remain prominent after the COVID-19 pandemic. Federal reviews acknowledged that prisons face unique challenges in controlling infectious disease. At Millhaven, pandemic restrictions intensified isolation and disrupted programming. Lessons from this period have informed updated emergency planning, reinforcing arguments for reduced crowding and improved health infrastructure. Technology is gradually reshaping correctional operations. Secure electronic systems for education, communication, and record-keeping are expanding within federal prisons. At Millhaven, technological adoption is cautious due to security concerns. Advocates argue that controlled access to digital tools can support rehabilitation, while critics warn of increased surveillance. Balancing innovation and security remains an ongoing challenge. Millhaven's reputation continues to influence public perception of Canada's prison system. Described in media as one of the country's most feared institutions, it embodies anxieties about violence, control, and permanence. Yet this reputation can obscure nuance, reducing complex realities to simplified narratives. According to criminologists, understanding prisons requires attention to systems rather than symbols alone. For incarcerated individuals, the future of Millhaven carries profound personal implications. Policy reforms, court decisions, and institutional changes directly affect daily life and long-term prospects. Testimony cited in oversight reports reflects cautious hope mixed with skepticism. Change, when it occurs, is often slow and uneven, making trust difficult to sustain. Correctional Service Canada maintains that maximum security institutions will continue to play a role in public safety. The challenge lies in aligning this role with constitutional obligations and evidence-based practices. Millhaven, as a long-standing maximum security prison, serves as a testing ground for whether this balance can be achieved. As Canada re-examines punishment, accountability, and rehabilitation, Millhaven remains under scrutiny. Its history, daily operations, and evolving policies offer insight into the strengths and limitations of the federal correctional system. Reform efforts reflect recognition that security alone cannot address the complex needs of incarcerated populations. Millhaven's future is not defined by a single decision but by cumulative choices made by lawmakers, courts, administrators, staff, and the public. Whether it becomes a model of measured reform or remains primarily a symbol of containment depends on how these forces converge. According to documented trends, incremental change is more likely than transformation. Yet even incremental change carries significance. This chapter concludes the examination of Millhaven by situating it within Canada's broader justice landscape. The institution reflects enduring tensions between control and care, punishment and rehabilitation. Grounded in verified reporting and institutional record, this analysis underscores a central reality. Life inside Millhaven is shaped as much by policy and oversight as by walls and bars. Understanding its future requires continued scrutiny, accountability, and an honest assessment of what justice demands.